handle the truth.
Hamilton is collapsing, and everyone is still trying to stage the rubble. Put up an open house sign in front of a dumpster fire and call it charming. It's not charming, it's chaos. And this city's wearing cologne to cover up the cat pee. You ever try and polish a cracked foundation? That's what's happening right now. We have buyers ghosting like it's Tinder and your roof's leaking. Downtown smells like heartbreak and hot garbage. Sellers are staging kitchens while tenants are fighting outside the Tim Hortons. There are more expired listings than Starbucks, and sellers still think another coat of gray paint is gonna save them. This isn't 2021, this is Hamilton 2025. And the roof is caving in, literally and financially. Look around. Inventory tripled since 2021. Sales down nearly 50%. Days on market skyrocketing. List price versus sold price, not even in the same galaxy. But sure, the market's totally fine.
It says for the fourth consecutive month, sales of detached homes are at their lowest level in this city in 30 years.
Tell that to the seller who just listed at $899, then begged to take it off the market at $750. Tell that to the investor who paid $600, dropped $100 grand into renos, and still can't sell for $550. Tell that to the condo owner losing $200K and bleeding $2 grand a month in negative cash flow, pretending long-term outlook will save them. This is a downfall. We've hit the pray and delay phase. Denial is the last gasp before collapse.
I told you it was collapsing 14 months ago.
Let's look at the streets. Tent cities, scooters, needles, and sirens. And somehow the average sale price is still floating around $800K. That's not value, that's delusion with granite countertops. The city used to sell struggle as grit. Now it just sells struggle. We're not in Steel City, we're in the stalled listing capital of Ontario. You walk down Barton and hear screams before you see the listing. Buyers come from Toronto, step out of their car and sprint back to the 401. One client said, 700 grand for this? I still got to dodge zombies at the gas station. He moved to Thorold, got more space, got more peace, and fewer tweakers per square foot. Let me be blunt. This isn't about paint color. This is about a psychological recession. No buyer wants to pay a premium to feel like they're just surviving. And here's where it gets savage. Even if your house is decent, but your street isn't, buyers aren't checking the home. They're scanning the block like detectives on a crime show. One siren, they scroll. One boarded up window, they bounce. One dude yelling at invisible dogs. Congrats, your staging budget just exploded. You think this is dramatic? Last week, I had a buyer walk out mid-showing because a guy was shadowboxing outside of a school. Didn't even finish the tour. Gone, ghosted, dead deal. The sellers, they'd already paid for staging, photos, and a deep clean. Now they're stuck and scared. And I get it. Nobody wants to panic. Nobody wants to admit the market turned. But here's the math. Months of inventory, 5x higher than in 2021. Cumulative days on market, double. Canceled listings over 900 in 1 week. Expireds through the roof. It's not slower, it's suffocating.
Sales in some major Canadian markets are continuing to drop to lows not seen in decades. It has some owners looking to offload their properties, worried that things will only get worse.
If you're thinking about selling in the Greater Golden Horseshoe, you don't need an awkward smile on a billboard from the past. You're glued to your screen, and so is your buyer. They're not stuck in traffic, they're online. I'll get a video of your home in front of 100,000 of their screens in 14 days or less, guaranteed. Exposure sells, faster and for more. Click the link, grab my free seller guide, or book a call, and watch what happens when you launch your home like a product drop, not a prayer. Now back to reality. Let's talk condos. Hamilton condos are in freefall, 30% down in some pockets.
Many properties to choose from, buyers are looking for deals. Sellers can no longer demand the hefty prices of a few years ago.
Buyers aren't dumb, they're just watching the interest rates, comparing options, and realizing, why would I buy a 600 square foot condo in Hamilton when I can buy a detached home in St. Catharines for the same price? You know what I call that? The collapse of the arbitrage myth. Toronto buyers used to be our lifeblood. Now they're out. Work from home dried up, the arbitrage died, the hype vanished, and what's left? Locals who can't afford it, and investors who regret it. I talked to 3 sellers last week who canceled their listings before going to market. You know how scared you have to be to not even try? One of them said, if I list and it doesn't sell, I'm screwed. They owe the bank more than what they'd net. They can't afford to sell, they can't afford to rent it, they're stuck, bleeding and waiting for a miracle that isn't coming. And here's the horror show that nobody's mentioning. Negative equity plus interest rates equals no way out.
Sector 47. It's a trap.
Forget FOMO. This is FOLM, fear of losing. I ask homeowners one thing lately. How long can you hold on? The answer is almost always not long. But they're praying, waiting, while their equity evaporates. That's the danger nobody talks about. And don't get it twisted. This isn't just a condo crisis, it's spreading. Townhomes, semi-detached on the mountain, slashing prices every day. Multi-residential and central, bleeding. Buyers aren't paying anymore. They've seen the prices, they've seen the city, they're done. The emotional return doesn't justify the financial risk. You can't sell chaos as character. You can't sell sirens as city life. You can't sell listings when buyers don't even get out of the car.
Real estate blow-ups happening. What am I talking about? Let me explain. Like, this is the collapse.
And what's the city doing about it? More taxes, more red tape, more LRT delays, more shelters, more headlines, less action. Meanwhile, buyers are heading to Niagara, Grimsby, Brantford. Hell, some of them are even leaving the province and going to Nova Scotia. Because you know what sells in 2025? Peace of mind, space, security, not having to step over used needles to get to the garage. Hamilton, it got so expensive and unbearable, and that combo, that's the real crash. You ever watch a building collapse in slow motion? That's Hamilton. But instead of concrete, it's equity. Instead of cracks, it's cancellations. We don't need a crystal ball to figure this out. We need a calculator and the guts to use it. Let's make this violent. 2,700 active listings, more than at any point in time in the last 10 years. Around 1,000 sales last week, 900 canceled listings, and 793 price cuts, all last week. Days on market is heading nowhere but up. You couldn't clear a sale with a chainsaw. It's molasses out here. But people still think they're one open house away from a Christmas miracle. Please, the only thing rising in Hamilton right now is denial. I've watched sellers hold on like they're hanging from a cliff. Mortgage at 5.99, $1,400 a month, negative cash flow, and they still tell me, let's wait till September. Bro, it's July. You're bleeding out. By September, you're nearly dead. One more canceled listing, one more price reduce, one more why didn't we act sooner? Let me say this loud for the people way at the back of the room. If you bought a pre-construction condo in 2021, you weren't investing, you were gambling on a sugar high. And now the crash is calorie free. Every investor who thought this was GTA light is now holding a bag of drywall and dreams. No renters, no profit, no exit. I'm watching 600K homes with 100K of renovations go stale at 550, like staging lipstick on a foreclosure. Nobody cares how nice your backsplash is when the buyer just watched a meth deal go down outside the building. Hamilton isn't just correcting, it's getting repriced. What used to be called value now gets filtered out in the first 3 seconds of a buyer's scroll on House Sigma. Why? Because buyers aren't chasing anymore. They're choosing. You list at $799, they offer $690. You laugh, they leave. Next showing never comes. You drop price, still no bites, because perception collapses before price does. That's the market we're in right now. Not supply and demand, it's belief and disgust. Let's take a walk through what buyers are actually thinking right now. Why does this 800K home back onto an alley of screaming? Why is the neighbor's window boarded up? Why does the street smell like regrets and blunts? Wait, I can buy a 4-bed detached home in Niagara that's a couple blocks away from a vineyard. Scroll, gone, blocked. This isn't a vibe issue, it's an emotional bankruptcy. Hamilton's image used to be tough, underrated, real. Now it's this, overpriced, underwhelming, and I'm out of here. Ask any buyer under 40, they're not moving here for potential, they're running from Toronto looking for peace. And Hamilton doesn't feel peaceful. That's why they bounce. Don't believe me? StatsCan says more people are leaving Hamilton than arriving. And it's not because they hate it, but because they can't justify it. You know what the average buyer says? I could tolerate the chaos if it was cheap. But this is GTA pricing without the perks. I'd rather commute from St. Catharines and actually sleep at night. Boom, gone. That's the new mindset. You don't fight that with an open house. You fight that with reality, which is what most sellers are allergic to right now. Let's talk danger. The scariest sentence I hear from homeowners is I can hold on for now. For now is the enemy. Now is the ticking clock. Now is the hand grenade with the pin already pulled. Because here's the formula nobody's calculated. Rising inventory, falling demand, expiring mortgages, sky-high stress test, emotionally tapped buyers equals correction that feels like an execution. If you're waiting for things to go back up, ask yourself this, who's left to drive that? The investors are already in the ICU, the out-of-town buyers are gone, and the locals can't qualify. The developers are skipping town, and the government, they're too busy regulating permits and pushing LRT timelines. You're on your own, and the market knows it. Every day you wait, you lose attention, positioning, and leverage. Because here's the punchline. Attention closes deals. Not granite, not square footage, not history, just eyes. I've seen it firsthand. Listings that should be grand slams, crickets. 3-bed, detached, driveway, garage, $799K. 0 showings in 10 days. Because 2 blocks away, someone's getting arrested at a Petro-Canada. And that video is going viral before your listing does. Buyers don't separate the house from the hood. They don't care how lovely your kitchen is if it feels unsafe to walk outside. This is psychology of a collapse. The invisible metrics that no stat sheet can show you. But I can, because I've sat with sellers crying over offers. I've talked to investors who are already 150K in the hole, and I've helped people map an escape route before the lender locks the door. This isn't doom, this is discipline. If you want fantasy, call your old realtor. If you want clarity, give me a ring. Because the only thing worse than losing equity is losing time pretending it's not happening. Let me put it like this. If you bought in 2015, you're a genius. If you bought in 2021, you need a strategy. If you bought a pre-con and it closes next month, you need a miracle. And if you're watching this right now, you probably already know that. You're feeling the pressure, you're getting the mortgage letters, you're watching houses sit, drop, and disappear. And you're realizing this isn't a dip, this is a disconnect between what we paid and what buyers are willing to give you. And that gap, that's the black hole swallowing listings alive like it's a Jaws movie. If you live in the Greater Golden Horseshoe and you still think this market's gonna save you, it won't, but I might. 100K phones, 14 days or less, targeted, aggressive, guaranteed. Sell smarter, sell faster, sell for more.
You can't handle the truth.